2 nights of WrestleMania and still several wrestlers left off of the card. We'll count down who should and shouldn't make it to WrestleMania, so just keep watching. I'm Dr. O'Kay and everyone thinks they deserve to be on the WrestleMania card. But let's just keep it real, because at the Showcase of Immortals, there has to be some baseline of success. So let's break it down into 4 categories with a top 5 countdown at the end. So category 1, honorable mention. And we start with Shinsuke Nakamura, because when you give someone a shot that doesn't deserve it, they just might win. And indeed, he got a US title shot before he even wrestled a match upon his return, and of course he stunned LA Knight to get that win and the title. But things quickly turned into fool's gold, because since last WrestleMania, he's just 3-5 in one-on-one matches and 3-7 overall. Up next is Chelsea Green and Zelina Vega, and I know you idiots love both of them. But did Chelsea legitimately win 3 straight matches to win the inaugural US title? Yes, she did, but since then, she's just 2-4, so she has a 5-9 1-1 record and 9-15 overall record, and that's with the help of the Secret Hervis over and over and over again. So think just how awful she would be if she did not get that help. Then there's Zelina, and wow, she got a win against Chelsea last week. And despite Chelsea actually crushing her for 90 seconds, she got this win by countout. And that win took her up to 2-5 in one-on-one matches and 5-10 overall since last WrestleMania. So sure, if you want to have this match for the title on SmackDown this week, I'm all for it. But they just haven't been good enough to make it to the WrestleMania card. In category 2, kinda close, but not close enough. We'll start with Michin, and she actually beat Chelsea most of the time before the title was involved, but then she kept being foiled once it was, and she still had a better record than Chelsea at 7-8 in one-on-one matches and 9-12 overall. Then on the Raw side, there's Dakota Kai, and she was pretty average at everything, but not great at anything, as she was 3-5 in one-on-one matches and 8-9 overall, and she took L's for the IC title, and with no tag partner at the moment, she simply has nowhere to go. Then on the men's side, Jimmy Uso, Carmelo Hayes, and Andrade are all kind of in the same boat on SmackDown. They've had lots of matches, but they still lose more often than not. Jimmy is trying to make up for lost time, but he's still 7-9-1 overall. And then there's Andrade and Hayes' rivalry that ended up helping no one, since they went 3-3-1 in their best of 7, leaving both of them under 500, with Andrade at 6-8-1 and Hayes at 9-12-3. Then there's Solo Sikoa, and if he doesn't get that match against Randy Orton, well, I guess he'll be out of luck, so we'll see what happens this week. Nonetheless, he had a heavy burden trying to lead the new bloodline when Roman Reigns abandoned ship and couldn't handle taking one loss, so he helped his crew to a tag team title and would have won the WWE title himself if Reigns wouldn't rather have had his family starve than be the head of the table. And even after losing the Ulafala, he still helped Jacob Fatu become the #1 contender for the US title. But for himself, he ended this year at 2-6 in one-on-one matches and just 9-12 overall, so I guess that is not good enough. Then there's Chad Gable. He had his chances at the IC title, but just couldn't do it. And with American Made, he hasn't done anything of note except bring in the greatest luchador of all time, El Grande Americano, who will help lead them to victory. But for Gable himself, he's sitting at just 5-8 in one-on-one matches and then 7-14 overall. The best thing he could do for his crew was to step aside for this Lucha Libre legend. In category 3 is our honorable mentions, and surely to be immortal, you need to be at least 500, so there are 2 of them who went exactly 500. First off is Sami Zayn, and because KO is right, Zayn is out indefinitely due to injuries at KO's hand, so despite holding the IC title until SummerSlam, he ended the year on a very cold streak at 7-1 in one-on-one matches since losing the World Heavyweight Championship match to Gunther in October. That dropped his one-on-one record under 500 to 9-11-1, but he barely held on with an overall record at 13-1. Then on the tag side, there's DIY, and they're much better when they're in the chase for the title than when they're holding it, because despite 2 tag title runs, they had just 2 successful defenses, as well as 1 no contest, so they just barely eke in at 500 at 7-2 in traditional tags, but under 500 at 9-10-2 in all tags. So that takes us to our official top 5 WrestleMania snubs, and at number 5 is Sheamus. He pretty much wins every one-on-one match, as long as the IC title is not on the line, as he ended at 9-6 in one-on-one matches, but just 9-11 overall. But most importantly, he was 0-3 in IC title matches, and he's been nowhere to be found since he enjoyed watching Joe Hendry in the Royal Rumble. At number 4 is Nia Jax, and she was both the Queen of the Ring and the WWE Women's Champion from SummerSlam until the first SmackDown of 2025. So how is she not on the Mania card somewhere? Well, it looks like the Poison Pixie poisoned her, because since Candice LeRae became a part of her kingdom, she is 3-14 in all matches after their first tag win. And that includes losing the Crown Jewel Championship, losing the Women's World title, and most importantly, losing her own WWE Women's Championship as well as the rematch to Tiffy. So I guess she's probably just too embarrassed to show up after losing a tag match at the Elimination Chamber. So despite that, she was still good in one-on-one matches at 12-7. Though those losses really dropped her down a lot to 14-18 overall. At number 3 is Braun Strowman, and I am apoplectic that this man is not in the US title match, because Dom and Balor somehow both got into the IC title match, even though they are 3-19-1 combined in one-on-one matches since last WrestleMania. However, this former WWE champion is 9-4-2 in one-on-one matches on the SmackDown side, and is 13-9-2 overall. So despite that, he only got 1 chance at any title, and that ended in a no contest when Fatu interfered, and somehow he still had to re-qualify to become the #1 contender. And then unfortunately for him, he took his first ever loss in a last man standing match after already beating Big Bronson Reed in a last man standing match earlier in this cycle. So this is just a big old for Strowman, because he really deserves to be in a match. At number 2 are the Motor City Machine Guns, and they're not exactly my cup of tea, because I think they learned about 4 team moves that they learned over about 20 years, and I think those will eventually get caught onto in the near future. But for now, even I cannot deny that they keep on winning, because they already have 1 reign as tag champs and are 8-3-1 in traditional tags, and then 9-4-1 in all tags. So yeah, I gotta give them a shot. And who should they get a shot against? At number 1 are the Street Profits, and they will face the Machine Guns on Friday night on SmackDown for the titles. But we've got 13 or 14 matches over 2 nights to fill, and one of them is not for possibly the hottest division in all of WWE. We had 5 teams entertain us more than anyone throughout the first part of 2025, where the Profits came out as the best of all of them, and they are now 3-time tag team champions, as they simply won just about every match at 9-3 in traditional tags, and were 12-7-1 in all tags. So while the best will be facing the best on SmackDown, this absolutely should be on the WrestleMania card. So these 2 tag teams are certainly the 2 biggest snubs. So yes, there are at least 5 big snubs for WrestleMania, as well as several other close calls. And since you are this close, why don't you go right on over here and check out yesterday's grades for the final Raw before WrestleMania, because if you don't, just like settling for the Profits and the Machine Guns on SmackDown, that would be not okay.